Hello everyone, Clark the Geek here, and welcome back to the James Bond Marathon series. Today we are on George Lazenby, and we're covering his only ever film, On Her Majesty's Secret Service, from 1969. 69. So this is where things get a bit complicated. So at this point, Connery had been Bond from the start. He'd done 5 films, and by the time You Only Live Twice came along, he was done with the part. He was bored of it. He wanted to do other things. So he left the part. Then what do you do? Because people still, James Bond was still popular. So what was the solution? To cast an unknown Australian actor who'd appeared in a chocolate bar advert.
I'm just not feeling myself, mate.
You just need to relax, mate.
Yeah, but I don't know how to.
I tell you what.
What?
Eat a Snickers.
This bloke here, he's Bond. Sir, are you winding me up? He's not Bond at all. I can sack you at any time. You do know that, right? Alright, I'll give him a call. Who is he? And so George Lazenby was cast for this film, and then didn't reprise a role. And then the next film, Diamonds Are Forever, Connery was back. And then Live and Let Die, it was Roger Moore. The late 60s and early 70s were very odd for James Bond, I have to say. But this film these days is very much loved, as it's seen as one of the best of the franchise. So let's see if it is. So I guess we'll start off with the pre-title sequence, which is sort of, the first new Bond. It's, looking at how they reintroduced this Bond and the new actor. And I don't think it's done very well here. Because in this, when he's uttered the Bond James Bond line, all he's done up to that point, because he's been in the shadows, he's not revealed his face, all he's done is smoked a cigarette and plucked a woman out to sea. And then he goes on to beat up 2 people, and then that's when the title sequence plays. And it's like, is that it? Is that, because people aren't going to accept the new Bond immediately. You've got to earn it, haven't you? And that just feels like a bit too little. And also the line, "This never happened to the other fellow." Apparently it was somewhat on set that it was a phrase that was on set and they put it in the film, but it does kind of give the indication of, oh, is it meant to be like a different character? And it's this, it doesn't feel very focused. It doesn't feel clear enough as to what they're trying to go for with this. And I can understand why people were put off with Lazenby at the time. But speaking of Lazenby as Bond, I mean, I don't mean to be sort of mean on him, because I do think he's good, but he is like the weakest Bond kind of by default. But I don't think he's bad. I do think he suits what they were going for with this film in particular. And there are scenes where he is really, really good, and especially sort of near the end of the film, he's brilliant. And also when he's with Diana Rigg, which I'll get onto in a bit. But in other scenes in the film, especially when he's in disguise as Hilary Bray, his lack of acting experience kind of shows. And especially when he is disguised, because they've dubbed his voice, it doesn't feel right. His performance doesn't feel right. And he is probably the weakest Bond by default. But I still think he's good. And there are certain scenes where he really excels, and he does feel a bit different, because he's the youngest Bond at this point. That sort of, I don't know how to describe him. That sort of Prince Charming. He's sort of like the romantic. He does feel like a very distinct Bond, and I wouldn't want this film without him. Now let's move on to Diana Rigg as Tracy Bond, James Bond's wife, because it's one of the most important stories in all of Bond. It's the one where he gets married, and yeah, it's Diana Rigg playing his wife, and I think she's the best thing in this film. She is fantastic. I mean, she was a phenomenal actor. May she rest in peace as well. But she's a brilliantly written character. She was phenomenally performed. There's so much depth there. Like there is so much to this character, and Rigg is exceptional in the role. And the chemistry that she and Lazenby have is something else. It is brilliant. And not only is she great, but the chemistry that she has with Lazenby makes him brilliant in the scenes with them two. And I just think she's absolutely just exceptional. Now let's talk about Blofeld in this film played by Telly Savalas. Now, I should say I haven't seen many of the Blofeld Bond films yet. I'll get round to them, don't you worry. The only other one I've seen is For Your Eyes Only, and that's only at the very beginning. You don't even... He doesn't even say him by name as well. But anyway, I'm digressing. Yeah, Blofeld, he's meant to be the most iconic Bond villain. He's like Bond's arch enemy. And he's good in this film. I do like him. I like how he gets in some of the action. You know, he's doing some of the skiing, chasing after Bond. I always thought, you know, it's the stereotype that Blofeld is just sat there in his chair stroking his cat. But I do like this Blofeld. I do think Telly Savalas was very good. And yeah, he was good. But I don't know, not the best Bond villain ever. At least this interpretation. But you know, maybe other Blofelds are better. I don't know. But I did like this Blofeld. And speaking of villains though, I think the better one is Irma Bunt, who's the hench person. She is a properly despicable character. You really hate her. She's one of those characters that you just hate instantly. And she was brilliant. And I mean, she's properly ruthless as well. I mean, spoilers, but at the very end, she's the one who drives past and kills Tracy. She kills Bond's wife. I mean, she's just a properly hateable character. As I said earlier, this is one of the more mature and, as I said, one of the most important Bond stories ever. It's a very gritty take on Bond, and I think that it is done really well. I think it's maybe not the most entertaining film in the world, but it is a very well crafted film. It is very well written and well told. But saying that, I do think the pacing, obviously it's going to be a slower film, and you know, I can accept that for certain. You know, if a film is more character driven, it's going to be slower. But I think in this film, there's certain scenes that does feel like just a lot of faffing about. More so in the middle, I would say, but it does feel like a bit of faffing about. Another thing I want to mention overall about this film is that it's the direction. This is one of the best looking Bond films that we've ever had. It's the only film directed by Peter Hunt, who was an editor in the Connery era, and I was never that fussed on his editing. I thought it could be quite choppy. I think it was, you know, he used jump cuts a lot, and you know, they would speed up the footage, and it did always feel a bit odd. But this film, I think his direction is fantastic. The way it's shot is beautiful. The colours are really striking. Like that pre-title sequence I mentioned, it's on the beach, and that fight scene, it is gorgeous. Like the waves and the water, it looks stunning. And also a lot of the film is set in Switzerland, which is obviously all the snowy landscapes, and it looks so distinct and so good. And that lends itself really well to the action, whether it's the skiing scenes, or the racetrack bit, or the winter village. It just looks, it looks so good, and it looks so good, and especially for 1969. 69? It looks stunning. And also, I want to talk about the ending with Bond and Tracy getting married. I think it's a brilliant scene, it's very lovely, and because these two have really good chemistry, it works so well. And the little, the little moments with the other characters like M, Q, Moneypenny, the other MI6 lot, it makes it just works so well. And obviously the very end of the film, where Tracy is killed, she gets shot. And I mean, I know I've ragged on Lazenby a lot in this video, but the way he plays that scene, it's so tender and just absolutely phenomenal. So overall, I would agree that this film has definitely aged well. I think it's gotten better with time, and it's not a perfect film. I wouldn't say it's one of the best. It's not one of my favourites so far, but it is a great film. I'd give it an 8 out of 10. I do think it has gotten better with age. So I hope you enjoyed the video. What are your thoughts on this film? What are your thoughts on Lazenby as Bond? Do you think he should have done more Bond films? Let me know in the comments below. And join me next time. Our destination, Moonraker. I'll see you then.